Hello there, guys. My name is Instructor Paul, and I'm going to be your host for this webinar. I just want to say thanks for everyone coming out and joining, hanging out with me for a little bit. We're going to be covering a couple different topics. Mainly, my motivation for running this webinar is to get you guys up to speed on how you can set up your own home lab so that you can start gaining IT experience. When I started in IT about 10 years ago, or that's when I started my career. Before that, I tried to gain IT experience, and it was a real struggle because you couldn't get IT experience unless you could get a job, and you couldn't get a job without IT experience. So you kind of went in this circle of trying to get experience, trying to get a job. So what I want to do is, technology has changed where you can start gaining your own IT experience, at home on your own computers. Computers are now powerful enough. Most of the computers are 64-bit. Even with 32-bit, you can still get away with setting up your own lab. There's generally enough RAM to run a server in a virtual machine. So things have really changed, and it's a lot better for you guys who are trying to either get a promotion or get a start in the IT field. So that's really what I want to do. I want to give you guys the tools and environment so that you can learn, you can start taking advantage of everything that you have access to. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined. I saw a couple of you guys have been chatting with you. Francisco, I see Daniel Chang, he's in here. I think it's Frank Sheraton, Dex B. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with me, guys. There's going to be periods where I'll answer questions. So if you guys are struggling with anything in particular, you'll be able to ask me questions throughout the webinar. So let's go ahead. Kevin, what's up? Hey, Mr. G, the last. So I have a question already. It says currently doing your Windows Server. Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, so Kevin was saying that he's enrolled in my Windows Server 2016 course. That's awesome. And James Bishop, cool. It's good to see you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna switch this view over and go ahead and we'll just go over a couple slides. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is a build your own IT lab. I talked a little bit about the purpose. We're going to cover four main topics in this webinar. First, it's going to be server and network virtualization overview. So for those of you guys who are already enrolled in one of my IT courses, you'll kind of have a good understanding of this, but this is a good time to ask me any questions, live if you have any. So I'm going to actually walk you through a lab setup, how to get, how to install, what software options there are, how to actually install the software and get that set up. So if you guys are having any issues doing that, this is a good time to ask me questions. Next, this is a big one. We're going to talk about how to take advantage of your new IT lab. And once you get it set up, I know that a lot of you guys are going to struggle with, I don't really know what to learn. So there's a couple, this kind of runs into the next thing. There's a couple tools and a couple strategies you can use to learn or to figure out what you need to learn. So that rolls right into the next one. I'm going to list the most important tools that you need to learn with your IT lab. So once you get it all set up, sometimes it's kind of, what do I do with it now? So I see here's a question. Will you make any emphasis on Hyper-V? I do have a Hyper-V lab. That's what I use for all of my courses. So when you enroll in my courses and you see like the servers that I've set up, I use Hyper-V because I actually purchased the physical server, and it was easier to use Hyper-V than VirtualBox when I was running like 20 servers at a time. So if you'd like, I can show you what my Hyper-V setup looks like. If you have any questions, then I can answer those for you. We'll do that at the end of the webinar though. So let's go ahead and get started. I should talk about myself. So that's an old picture of me, probably like 4 or 5 years old. My name's Instructor Paul. I'm an instructor to about, now it's over 110,000 students in over 199 countries. I really want to hit the 200 countries mark, but I just haven't got there yet. I've been stuck at 199 for like a couple months. So I have over 7 online IT courses. And if you're interested, these are where my students come from. Most of them United States. I got India, Australia, Germany, and the UK. If any of you guys are outside of any of those countries, let me know in the chat. That'd be cool to see. So that's kind of my experience as an instructor. Now, as an IT, and my IT experience, I have a decade of experience, going on 11 years now. I currently do work in the field. I'm not just a full-time instructor. So that's kind of a benefit to you guys. I don't just have classroom experience. I actually go out and I work full time every single day. Sometimes I work on weekends. So I'm currently very active in the IT field. Mainly right now, my job, I'm doing mainly Windows, Linux server administration. We use Red Hat, CentOS 6 and 7, Red Hat 6 and 7, things like that. Windows Server, we use 2016, 2012. We're kind of phased out all the 2008 servers. We do some database administration, so Postgres, MySQL type databases, things like that. All this stuff generally on my new position is all hosted out of the Amazon Web Services cloud. So we're using EC2 instances, RDS. So if you're familiar with that, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, don't worry about it because it's not really anything you really need to understand right now. We also do a lot of DevOps on my job with Puppet. So we write classes, and that allows us to do DevOps is kind of like, or with Puppet, you think of infrastructure as code. So we can make mass changes to a lot of our Linux operating systems with just a single module or something like that with Puppet. So yeah, a lot of PowerShell scripting, automation. We do shell scripting, Python, Perl. I don't think I wrote that in there, but we do batch scripting. Any chance that we have, we can automate a redundant task. That's something that I spend time working on the job. Also, we work with. It's kind of a little bit different. I'm a sysadmin, but we use the Atlassian tool suite. So we use Jira, Confluence. It's a lot of software developer type tools, and we work in sprints. So I'll have a 2-week window, and they'll give me like 5 tasks, and they'll say, "We want you to finish these 5 tasks in these 2 weeks," and that's what I focus on. So that's kind of like what my IT experience is like. Let me see. Let me look over these comments here that I've got. Let's see. Okay, so I see someone's asking about MDT. I have a class that I'm co-instructing with Instructor Robert. I don't know if you guys have seen my SCCM class, but I teach that with Instructor Robert. He's kind of the expert on all things MDT, and we're going to be producing a course together, but I haven't got around to doing that yet. Let's see. Yeah, so if you're going to be using Hyper-V for this lab, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. You can use Hyper-V. You can use VMware like ES6i. You could even use the VMware VM Player, the free virtualization software from VMware. Does not matter. It's all going to be basically the same. And that's the cool thing is when you learn VirtualBox, when you go out and you get an IT job and you need to work with virtualization, you're going to be familiar with everything. You know how to build a VM. You understand what a VM is. Even by the end of this webinar, you're going to understand how to allocate storage. You're going to understand thin provisioning, thick provisioning, things like that. Those are all what we're going to cover. And they're super important in the IT field. Okay, so, all right, let me see here. Okay, so for the IT lab requirements, it's a good idea. This would be for your physical computer. The computer you're using to watch this webinar, you want to have a minimum of 4 gigs of RAM. If you have less than that, like 2 gigs, I've seen people get away with it, but it's really hard, and generally the lab is pretty slow. So I'd be surprised if any of you guys have less than 4 gigabytes of RAM. But there's a chance. If that is the case, if your computer is not powerful enough, you could go and rent a server online, like in the Amazon cloud, like what I use at work, AWS. You can go and you can pay for a server, for the certain amount of time that you use it. I don't think it's very cost efficient. So it'd probably be better for you to just buy, a low end or medium, mid range, newer generation laptop. Okay, so preferably you'll have a 64-bit operating system. All the new laptops, if your laptop is like 2 years old, then you should, even if anything newer than 2 years, 3 years, you should have a 64-bit OS. If you do have a 32-bit operating system, that's fine. You're going to use Windows Server 2008 because 2012 and up is now only available in 64-bit. Okay, so it's not a big deal. Server 2008, 2012, there's differences in the graphical user interface, but I'd rather have you gaining experience on 2008 than not gaining any experience at all. And a lot of people are still using 2008, so don't think that you have to be at the latest technologies. A lot of people have not switched over to 2016. So that's one thing to keep in mind. 20 gigs of storage would be nice, but your lab is going to be as big as you make it. If you have 5 gigs available, we can make it work. But the more you have, the better. Okay, so are there any questions up to this point before I jump into what we're going to talk, kind of give an overview of what virtualization is, how it works, and anything like that. So do you guys have any questions? I'm going to give you a second here to ask anything that you might have. I'm gonna pop my camera up there so you guys can see me in the bottom right. Hey Joshua Ojo, is that how you say it? Ojo? I'm not sure how you say that, but hi Joshua. All right, so far so good, cool. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and we're gonna move on. Oh yeah, so before, I think some of you guys I may have already given this stuff. Everyone on this webinar, I'm going to give all this stuff for free to you guys. So at the end of the webinar, if you guys stay, I'm going to make it post it as a comment. I'm going to give you the Build Your Own Windows Server IT Lab course. That's a $99 course. I'm going to give that to you guys for free. There's an ebook that I also have. I'm going to give that to you for free if you don't already have it. And then I have an ebook that focuses on the top five things that you need to focus on when you're trying to get an IT job. So it talks a lot about interview prepping, things like that. I'm going to give you that ebook for free also. So these are all products that I sell on my website, but since you guys come and hung out with me today, I'm going to offer that all to you for free. And hi, Justin. Cool to see you, man. Thanks for coming to hang out with me. Oh, and then Frank had a question. I was wondering if you're going to get this video. I'm not sure what you mean by this video. I was wondering if we were going to get this video. Yeah, okay. I think that answered your question. Maybe you're asking about the course. So, oh, and hi, Joseph. I don't think I've said hi to you yet. Cool. Thanks for coming to hang out. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about what virtual machines are. Now, some of you guys might already know this if you're already in some of my courses, but we'll just rehash it. If you guys have any questions, then I'll answer that. So a virtual machine is like a software computer. The most basic terms that I can think to explain is a computer within a computer. And it can be used pretty much like any other computer. So if you think of like when you install a game, if you're into gaming, when you install a new game on your computer, that's an application that you can launch, you can use it, and then you can turn it back off when you're done. A virtual machine is the same way. You'll create the virtual machine, you'll launch it, it'll act, it's kind of like an emulator if you've ever used that. It'll act like a computer, and then you'll do all your work inside of it. You can install software on that computer, you can reconfigure it, you can install a Linux virtual machine, you can do Windows, and then when you're done, you just power it off, and just like when you turn off any kind of other application, it won't be using resources on your computer anymore. Now, it will take up physical space on your hard drive and things like that. But let's talk about why do you use virtual machines? And there's several different benefits to using virtual machines over physical. In the IT world now, a lot of people are getting away from having physical servers and doing virtual for numerous reasons. For one, a virtual machine is stored on the hard drive, so that means it's versatile. So if I create a VM here in the United States and I have an office in Europe or anywhere else, Canada, just anywhere, and I need to ship it over there, I can literally export the VM as a file and email it, or you probably wouldn't email it, but I can put it on a shared drive and they can grab that. So you can send it just like you could send any other kind of file on your computer. Also, you can make copies, you can make clones. So if I create a virtual machine and I create a server, I install it, I configure it, I can clone that VM off, and I can copy it and make another one. I can deploy another one that looks just like it. And then if I have a problem with one of my virtual machines, say it crashes, gets a virus, I can take that down and bring up the clone, and it'll be, just like, instead of me having to rebuild it from scratch. Okay, so repurposing VMs is a huge advantage that you have. And then also, if you want to set up 5 servers, you don't have to buy 5 physical servers. You can start 5 VMs. And then if you only need to use 4, you can bring down one of them and things like that. So you're not having to manage physical servers in a rack. Generally though, these VMs obviously are ran on a physical host. And right now where I work, we're running everything out of the cloud. So Amazon Web Services does all our processing power, if you will, or our hosting. I worked at a job where we had 4 physical hosts, and each one of these hosts had like 500 gigabytes of RAM and tons of storage. But everything else, all of our domain controllers, everything that ran the infrastructure was a virtual machine within one of those 4 hosts. Okay, so that pretty much explains what they're used for. Now, there's a couple key terminologies that you guys need to understand. First, you have your host computer, and then you have a guest VM. Now, your host computer is what you're using to watch me right now. It's like if you have a laptop, you think of my phone here. If I was to run, wouldn't do this. If I was to run a VM on this phone, or if this was a laptop, this would be the host, and the guest is going to be the software that's on the host, right? So if I host if I have a laptop, I install a VM, the laptop is the host and the VM is the guest. Okay, so when people refer to is your guest powered on, they're talking about the virtual machines. The guest, it's a guest of the host VM. Okay, all right, so here's a little bit of a diagram that kind of explains it, just like I tried to do. A host computer can host several VMs. That's kind of a tongue twister there. Host can host. So you can see here, if I bring my mouse cursor over here, we have the host computer, then we have 3 virtual machines inside of that host computer running as software. All right, so a guest VM generally resides on a single host. You can cluster the host computers together. We're not going to be doing that. That's kind of an advanced thing that you won't have to set up. There's no need for us to do anything like that. Generally, the host computer, like I said, is very powerful. The hosts that I have in the other room that I use for all my courses have about 250 gigabytes of RAM. It has 250 gigs of RAM and like a couple terabytes of solid state drive. Then I have a couple more terabytes of just regular hard drive, 7200 RPM disks. So generally the hosts are more powerful. Okay, any questions about virtualization? I know some of you guys are going through my courses, so if you guys are experiencing any issues with virtualization, you don't understand anything, now's a good time to ask. So I see Francisco's talking about he's stuck after asked to change the password, and then I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but I can get with you on that at the end of this webinar. It sounds like that might be a little bit more technical, and I don't want to waste I don't want everyone to have to sit there and watch while I work through you with that. But we'll definitely get to that at the end of this webinar. Okay. And also, if you're in one of my courses, you can ask directly on there, and I will answer that. I also have a team that answers questions on there. So someone asked, how far does your Windows Server 2016 ask? James Bishop asked that. I'm not sure what you mean by how far. I'm assuming how in depth, and I can cover that at the end of this webinar, but it takes you from basic installation configuration, installing server roles. I cover like the top 5 server roles that you need to know in that course. But we'll get more into that later on. And I think I go into automation scripting and things like that, but we'll get more into that later. Okay, so yeah, so now I want to do the hands-on demonstration. So really quick, I'm going to switch over my screen here. And if you guys, at this point, if you guys did download the Windows Server ISOs, now's the time when we're going to use it. So what I'm going to do here, let me make sure everything's working good. You guys should be able to see my screen. Oh, as far as depth and content, it goes pretty deep, but like I said, we'll cover that later. I can send you a link. I have a link with a curriculum. You can see each lecture that's inside of the course, and that will give you a better understanding. And Mr. G the last, yes, I can help you with MDT, but we'll do that after this webinar. Probably send me an email. Here, I'll just post that in the chat. Mr. G, email me. There we go. Okay, yeah, so hit me with that email, Mr. G, and I will help you work through your MDT issues. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to google.com, and we're going to search for the software that I like to use is VirtualBox. Now, like I mentioned, there is VMware Workstation, I think it is. It's called VM Player, I believe, last time. So yeah, so you have this option of downloading VMware Workstation Player. This is a free option that you have. I prefer VirtualBox. Because it's easier to use, in my opinion. So if we just type in VirtualBox download, we'll be brought to this webpage here. We'll click go to downloads. And now it's virtualbox.org/wiki/downloads. Can you do a video on group policy in Windows Server? Yes, I am planning on doing that on my YouTube channel. I do have a course on that, but I do want to make like a beginner crash course on group policy. I do plan on doing that. Manny. And thanks for joining, by the way. Okay, so here we go. We're on the VirtualBox binaries page. I'm going to choose Windows because I'm using Windows 10. If you're on Mac, doesn't matter what kind of operating system if you're on. If you're on Mac, Linux, Solaris, does not matter. You can follow along with any of my courses because the virtualization allows us to install different operating systems. So I'm going to click on Windows host, and I'm going to click run. Okay, so I have a pretty fast internet connection. I have like 1,000 gigs down, or 1,000 megs down, 1,000 megs up. So it actually already finished. But I'll give you guys a second just to catch up if you're following along. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is the welcoming screen that we're going to get here. So it's 5.2.16 is the latest version. I'm just going to click next. We're going to choose all the default options. There's no reason for us to not install any of these because we want full functionality of VirtualBox. So we're going to click next. I'm going to create all these shortcuts. I'll click next. And when it comes to the networking interfaces, this is really, really important. You can't create a virtual network if you don't allow VirtualBox to manage these different settings. So it's also telling me that I might be disconnected from my network. So if we have a hiccup in the webinar, don't worry, I'll come right back. So I'm going to click yes, and I'm going to click install. So right now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have it's giving me the administrator user account control. I'm going to say yes to give it admin privileges on the machine. Just make sure that everything is still good. Okay, cool. Okay, so now it's saying you can start Oracle VM VirtualBox. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that checked and hit finish. Okay, now I already had a VM there. I'm going to delete that. That shouldn't have been there. Cool. Okay, so this is our virtualization software. Now, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're using VM Player, Hyper-V, ESXi. Well, ESXi is a little bit different, but most of these, it's going to be the exact same. You might have a little bit of a different user interface, but the idea is you're going to create a virtual machine, you're going to allocate storage, and then once you create it, you allocate the storage, you create the disks, we're going to configure the networking, we're going to mount the appropriate ISOs for the operating system or software we're trying to install on the VM, and then we're going to power it on. It's the same steps on every single virtualization technology. So let's click new, and right away I'm under expert mode. So if you see this screen right here, just click expert mode, and I'm going to call this Windows Server 2016. All right, now I'm on a pretty powerful computer. I bought this computer so that I can, I actually have, okay, sorry. Jerry is asking a question. I have a few Dell R710s. No, you don't need to use all 4 NIC ports. Unless you have 4 networking interfaces, you can just use the one. Yeah, but I use a PowerEdge R720, I think, for my server. So I'm going to type in Windows Server 2016 here. And for the RAM on this computer, I have a pretty powerful computer. I want this to be fast for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up. And I'm also going to right click and open the task manager. So I'm going to switch over to performance. And right here I can see I have 31 gigs of RAM available. And I'm using 9.5 gigs of RAM. So what I don't want to do is choke all my memory out. So I obviously can't make this 32 gigs because I'm using 9, and that'll cause the VM to not be able to power on. So I'm just going to go around the 10,000 mark. I'll just stick it right there. Generally, you do this in 1024 increments. I have no idea if that's a 1024 increment. I'm not too worried about it. It looks like it kind of is. Yeah, actually, I think that is. So, okay, under hard disk, we're going to say create the virtual hard disk now. Remember, I said we create the VM, we create the hard disk, and then we configure it. So we're under expert mode. I'm going to click create. And now we're creating the virtual hard disk. This can be as big or as small as you want it to be. We're going to use a dynamically allocated in VMware, like ESXi. This will be called thin provisioning or thick provisioning. So dynamically allocated would be equivalent to thin provisioning. This would be equivalent to thick. And I think Hyper-V calls this the same terminology, thin and thick. Just Oracle VM calls it dynamic or fixed. So if I create this to fixed, or if I choose fixed, and then I create a 50 gigabyte hard drive file, that file will always be 50 gigabytes, no matter how much data is actually on that hard drive file. If I choose dynamically allocated, then this will only be as big as the amount of data on the hard drive. So if I install the Windows Server operating system and that's 8 gigs, then the hard drive file that I'm creating will actually be 8 gigabytes big. If I download another piece of software that's 10 gigs after that, then the hard drive file will be 18 gigs, and it'll go all the way up until 50. All right. Some people don't like to use dynamically allocated because what happens is you over provision. So say your host has 100 gigabytes of available hard drive space, and you thin provision 50 gigabyte hard drives, and they're all about running around 4 or 5 gigabytes. What happens is if they all fill up, then that adds up to more than your host computer actually has. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and I think 50 gigs is all right, but I'm just going to put in 100. So I'm just going to do 100 gigabytes. You can do whatever you want. You can probably get away with 50 gigs, 40 gigs, something like that. So, under the hard disk file type, we can leave this at VirtualBox disk image. If you're planning on moving this VM to VMware or Hyper-V, there's different formats that you can choose. But we're not going to be doing anything like that. We're just going to use VirtualBox for all of our virtualization needs. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. And now I have my virtual machine created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this VM. I'm going to go to settings. And under the system, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go under the processor, and I'm going to move this processor up to 6 processors because I want this to be as fast as possible since you guys are watching this webinar, and I don't want to spend 45 minutes going through the install. So if I was to choose 1 CPU and 2 gigs of RAM, it would take a little bit longer. So I want this to go as fast as possible for you guys. So I'm just going to max that out, but you guys probably don't need to mess with the processing power unless you have, a gaming PC. Gaming PCs are actually really good for running a little virtual lab inside of them. You can probably afford to do more, but okay, now what we're going to do is go to storage, and I'm going to click this disk icon, and under the optical drive, I'm going to click the disk icon on the right, and I'm going to say choose virtual optical disk file. All right, and I have a little webinar folder here. I have the Windows Server 2016 Data Center Eval ISO. Okay, so I'm going to open this. This is the Windows Server 2016 ISO that is linked. If you're on my website, if you're not on my website, there's a link in the description. Let me show this I know there's some guys on YouTube, or guys and gals, I don't know. But I know there's some of you are on YouTube, so let me just show this. If you're on the live webinar, the link is in the description of this YouTube video. If you scroll down, there are links right here for Windows Server 2016 and Windows Server 2008. Okay, so those are, and by the way, those links, that's legal software. It's not like I'm doing anything illegal. Those are evaluation copies of Windows Server, okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click OK. And if we want to create a network, we can hit File, and we can go to Network Operations Manager, I think. Let me double check. Hold on. No, it's actually under Preferences. Sorry. If you hit File and go to Preferences, we can go to Network. And I had an Exchange Lab here at one point, but that will not be showing. So you'll want to create a NAT network. And what a NAT network does is it allows you to have internal virtual machine access and internet access. All right, so I'm just going to click the plus button here on the right side, and it's going to be called NAT network. I'll right click and choose Edit NAT network. And I'm just going to leave this CIDR at this default settings. I'm going to change the network name to IT Lab. And I can leave supports DHCP. It's not a big deal. Although if you want to install a DHCP server, you should uncheck that. You can do port forwarding. That's not something we need to do unless you intend on running a service that you want to be accessible, from outside of your virtual lab. So if you're running a web server or something like that on your computer, you would have to forward ports. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to right click on this VM again, and I'm going to choose Settings, and we'll go down to Network, and we'll choose NAT Network, and there's our IT Lab network. We'll click OK. All right, so if I'm going too fast for you guys, tell me to slow down and I will slow down, because I know that, especially on the live webinar, I try to edit my videos where I slow down some, but I know that I have a tendency of just blazing through stuff. So if you guys have any questions, save them, and you can ask them now. I'm gonna have a section, as soon as we're done with this, I'm gonna have a section for you guys to ask questions, and I'll dedicate some time to that. But just looking over the comments here. Hi, Kevin. I see we got Kevin, we got Joseph again. Yeah, so Kevin's saying that he created a VM that was a bit small and he had to unmount it and expand it. Yeah, that is a good thing. I should cover that because I've had to do that several times on the job. That's a really good point, Kevin. I will make sure I add that. Okay. And then Joseph asked, do you recommend using a Microsoft Hyper-V for saying? Yeah, Hyper-V is great. If you have Hyper-V, it's a great way to go. I use VirtualBox because it's the same for Linux. It's the same for Windows. Anyone can follow along. So if I stick to Hyper-V, then all my friends on the Mac are going to be stuck. And I don't want to do that. I don't want them to have to, have to worry about all that. Okay, so what we're going to do now, just double check. We mounted the ISO. Yep, I can see it listed right there. We configured the base memory, the processing power, and we are on the network. So what I'm going to do now is right-click on this virtual machine, and I'm going to say Start, Normal Start. And if you guys want to learn more about VirtualBox, I have a course on it. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with this thing. You can run servers out of here, like web servers, email servers. VirtualBox is pretty powerful, so it's a really cool technology. Like for example, if you right-click under the start options, I'm actually not going to be able to show them now, but you can do a headless start, a detached start, things like that, which are all kind of cool, kind of similar to like VirtualBox or ESXi. Okay, so we're going to wait for this to power on. Okay, so Francisco, you said VMware. Are you using the Workstation VM Player or are you using ESXi? I think you said this already, but I don't remember. Yeah, and yes, you can use VMware Workstation. You can definitely use VMware, Manny. And if you guys wouldn't mind, tell me why you prefer VMware Workstation over VirtualBox, because I'm interested. If I need to switch my courses over to VMware, I'm willing to do that. Whatever works best for you guys. That's all I really care about. All right, so this window's a little bit different. It's a different size than what my screen is, so I'll have to scroll up and down like this. So under Windows Server 2016, I'm going to leave the language, time and currency, and keyboard all at default. If you choose the wrong keyboard, it's a nightmare. Like you'll press spacebar and it'll delete, just all kinds of silly stuff like that. So you make sure you have the correct options here. We'll click Next, and we're going to say Install Now. Oh, okay. So James Bishop is saying Workstation is offered free from many colleges in the US. Okay, that's cool. VirtualBox is also free, but I'm assuming what you mean is that they just hand you VMware Workstation. And that's what they give you, so that's what you use. That makes sense. Okay, so under the operating system that we want to use, you can choose standard. You can do the desktop experience, you can do data center or data center evaluation with desktop experience. You want to do desktop experience. Windows is starting to go down the avenue of Windows of servers without a graphical user interface. It used to be called Server with a GUI. So if you install 2012, I think it's still called Server with a GUI. And I don't know if 2008 had Server with a GUI, if it was just the only option that you had. But if you choose one of these options, it doesn't say desktop experience, you're going to end up with a server that only has a command line. Okay. And the reason why you do that is to save performance processing power, because it costs a lot of performance from the computer to show you the start bar, all the graphical user interfaces. So if you want to have the most efficient server you can go with the evaluation. Now, it's important to know that you cannot install the same amount of roles on the it's called server core. That's what it used to be called. You can't install the same amount of roles on the core as you can on the desktop experience. So there are times where you have to choose a desktop experience. All right, so let me check here. So, oh yeah. So Microsoft Imagine, yeah, that's right. Yep, that's really cool. So he was talking about Microsoft Imagine allows multiple licensed copies of Server 2012 and 2016 for non-production. That's awesome. Hey, I want to get in touch with you more on that, James. So send me an email because I'm interested in learning about that. I'm gonna say, James, please email me. Email me those details, James. Okay. You answered it before I could finish typing it. All right, cool. So the difference between data center and standard, before it was always just how many copies of the license can you use. Now there's actually differences in between the standard and evaluation, but they're pretty advanced features. I think VM shielding is one of them, but I can provide you guys with a link that describes the differences between these two editions. I'm just going to choose standard. Because for one, I have a license for standard that I bought, and if I ever want to, activate this so I don't have to redo it later in 180 days when the evaluation expires, I can do that. So I'm going to click next. You can choose any one you want. Just make sure you choose a desktop experience. Now, if you haven't read through this, you're legally supposed to read through it. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to say I accept the license terms and click next. And here we need to choose upgrade or custom install. So an upgrade is, I'm just gonna, 9 times out of 10 an upgrade is a really bad idea. If you have Server 2012 installed, you can technically upgrade from 2012 to 2016, but it never ever works. Even in Microsoft's their MCSA book, I studied that a while back. They tell you don't do an upgrade. If at all possible, just install it from scratch. So upgrades, I mean, if you guys did the upgrade, remember when they were offering Windows 10 for free? I upgraded from 7 to Windows 10, and I had so many problems. It was crazy. Like the taskbar wouldn't work. Things would just disappear. It just doesn't work very good. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to choose custom. Since we don't have anything installed on this hard drive, we don't have a choice. We have to choose custom. Okay? So we could create partitions if we'd like. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be creating partitions. So we're just going to choose drive 0, and we'll click next. Okay, so now the installation is going to begin. Okay, so I'm going to check, while this is going, I'm going to go ahead and check over the comments here. So if you guys have any questions, let me see here. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them now. So let me just pop that up. Okay, cool. So yeah, let me check on the comments while this install is going, and we'll see what you guys are saying. Okay, so Justin Stevenson actually choose the data center desktop. Yeah, that's fine. I generally use data center, but it really doesn't matter unless you're using the features that are, the different features. And let me find that link actually. Windows Server 2016 data center versus standard. I just sent this to someone earlier this week. You might even be watching right now. But here we go. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to post this link. This is the link that outlines the differences between the two versions. But yeah, they're generally not features that we're going to be using, especially in an IT lab. So I generally tell people it really doesn't matter. Because you can't run Hyper-V inside of a VirtualBox operating, like a VirtualBox VM. That's why I said your VMs inside a VirtualBox act mostly like a computer. You can't run a virtualization software inside of a virtualized VM. That just doesn't work. Yeah, that's right. So before, in the old days, if your Windows Server expired after 180 days, you could run SL Manager. It was like SL Manager / rearm or something like that. But apparently that's all different than what it was. Yeah, and you would get like another 80 days. Or I don't know if it's another 180. I can't remember. It was like another 90 or 180 days. And so your license would be extended, and then eventually it would just keep powering the computer off after an hour. So okay, so Francisco, you're using. I think you said you're using VM, VM player. That's different than VirtualBox. In VirtualBox, you use right control and delete. And also, if I pop over here, if you go to devices, where is it? Is it under devices? Oh, input and then keyboard, insert control delete. Every single virtualization software has a way for you to send a control delete command to the VM. I've never used anything, and I've used a lot of virtualization, but I've never used anything that did not allow you to do that. Because sometimes you're accessing a virtual machine through a remote desktop session. So you can't, if you hit control delete on a remote desktop session, not only does it send it to your host, but it actually sometimes it doesn't send it to the VM, it'll send it to your host. But you can hit right control delete. But if you're going through remote desktop, that only sends it to the remote desktop computer. It doesn't send it to the virtual machine. So 9 times out of 10, you can hit input. So there's usually some kind of button here at the top. You can go to send a control delete. Yeah. Also, like Joseph has a suggestion. Okay, so Yanis is asking, without ESXi knowledge, what are my chances of getting a job? Okay, so that's a good question. I don't think that ESXi is a requirement for you to get a job. And I'm not sure what you mean by with. Okay, so you said, let me read the question out loud again. With Yana says, without ESXi knowledge, what are my chances of getting a job with virtualization technology? Okay, so he's from Greece. Cool. His name's okay. So you want to call him John? Okay, cool. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us. So you ESXi is something you can download and just install. Um, it's a little bit more difficult to set up. It's actually a lot more difficult to set up than Windows Server. But I would encourage you, if you have an extra computer that's just sitting around, go ahead and download ESXi and go ahead and install it. It's not super difficult. It's kind of it's an operating system. Once you install it, you're going to be brought to a screen that has like 5 options. I think I'm going off memory here, so I might be wrong. But like one of the options will be configuring the network adapter. And then once you'll basically get it connected to your home network. And then once you get it connected to your home network, you'll download the client. You'll go to one of your Windows computers. It'll be like, it's called vCenter. Then you'll connect to that ESXi host, and then you'll create all your VMs just kind of like what we're doing in VirtualBox. So, but your chances, if they're saying we require ESXi experience, it all depends on the job. Most of the time, people they'll write job descriptions and ask for everything up to the moon. And I've been involved in that process. When we're trying to hire somebody, we put down every single thing we can think of. We sit there and just brainstorm. Oh, it'd be nice to have this. It'd be nice to have this. But we don't ever expect to even get 50% of that. And I'm going to talk about that later on in this webinar because I have I have a section that talks about job descriptions and looking over job descriptions in this webinar, and we're going to talk about that specifically. But you can get ESXi experience right now. Just download it. If you have an extra machine, then you can just install it in there. If you don't have an extra machine, you could dual boot, but excuse me, I don't think that's necessarily a good way to go. I will say though, you are getting, by using VirtualBox or VM Player, whatever you're using, you're understanding virtualization. You understand how it works. So you have the basic principles down. It's not like you're coming in there and you don't even know what a VM is. You don't know you don't know how to allocate storage for a hard drive. You understand all of that, or you're going to by the end of this webinar. Yeah, so Dexby is saying that ESXi is not all straight command line, and he's right. There is a user interface, and then when you get the thing set up, you can actually, they have a web client that you can use, and then you have the vCenter client that you can use to connect to the host, and you can manage it from a GUI that way. Just the initial setup is generally done through command line. Okay, so DexB is saying that you actually don't need the command line. So what version is that, Dex? Yeah, because that's different from 6. What was it? 6? I forget what I used. Okay. 6.7 is no client. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so the last one I used was like 6.1 or something, or 4. Maybe it was 5. I don't remember. Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's really nice. Sounds like they're trying to make it a lot easier than what it was in the past. So, yeah, man, if you understand VirtualBox, you're gonna be golden. You should be able to pick it up pretty quickly. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I don't know how much longer this is gonna take. Hopefully another 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, it's going pretty fast. So hopefully this will be done pretty quickly. Does anyone have any questions for me while we're waiting? Yeah, 6 needs a client. That's right. Yep. Yeah, we used 6 at my last job. We actually had like 4.5 or something, and then we upgraded to 6. Um, yeah, but now like my current job, we use everything's in the AWS cloud, so we don't even have to worry about it. It's really nice. When I want to launch something, I mean, I don't have to ever worry about one of the hosts going down, a networking issue. It's just everything works. It's really, really nice. Okay, so James Bishop is asking if my course covers NAS storage. I have my Windows Server 2016 training for beginners course. It does cover network storage, but because Windows Server has a role that you can install the file and storage services role, we do cover that. Um, but like a traditional NAS, if you're thinking like was it EMC, it's not like that, but Windows Server doesn't do like a dedicated storage server. You can install the server role and make it act like network storage. I believe that I do cover that, but again, if you look at the curriculum, you'll see all that in there. Okay, so Frank, you're having an issue with it booting to the drive. Email me a screenshot at paul@instructorpaul.com and I'll help you work through that issue. Oh, cool. So Joseph wants more an explanation on domains and domain controllers. Okay, I can do that. Give me some more like detail on what you exactly like what you want me to explain about. Do you just want to understand what they are, or just tell me what you exactly. Give me a little more detail on what you want me to answer, because that's a really broad term or a broad subject, and I'll be happy to do that for you. Yeah, so John, again, like if you understand VirtualBox, you understand the theory. This is virtualization. I know people who use VirtualBox in the corporate world. So VirtualBox is not by any means like just because you know VirtualBox means you don't understand virtualization. VirtualBox is something that is used for test labs. People even use it for production. People like small companies that don't have a lot of money, they don't want to purchase a license, which I mean they have to be running off Linux for that to make sense. But like VirtualBox is a legitimate virtualization software that you can run servers out of. So you understand by understanding virtualization, this everything you need to know to set up ESXi. Especially if you just go on look at their basic documentation, you'll be able to work through all of it. I don't have a course on ESXi because I generally focus on more like Windows Server type things. But I mean, maybe that's something I'll do in the future. But I think if you're thinking about getting a job and it says it requires ESXi experience, then what I would tell you to do, find a spare computer, go buy a cheap computer because ESXi does not require a lot of power to run, and install ESXi because you can download evaluation versions just like when we downloaded Windows Server. Okay, Joseph, you want to know what it takes to have a test domain for my lab environment? I will show you that. As soon as this comes up, I will show you how to build a domain and all that. Um, okay, so who asked about the domain? Was it you, Joseph, that asked about? Oh, okay. Yeah, it was. Okay, cool. We're going to get to that, Joseph. So let me go ahead and type in this password here. Now, this password you want to make sure that you remember. So I need to make sure I type it right, because this is going to be your go-to password. This password has God rights to this whole Windows server. So I'm going to click finish. Yes, Joshua, that is right. We're going to talk a little bit about how to take advantage of the IT lab at the end, because there's a lot of you guys. and I know this is a problem because you just don't know what to do. When you get the lab set up, there's a couple things that you need to learn, and you need to know what to focus on after your lab setup. Because like, okay, I got my lab. Now what do I do? So we're going to talk about that at the end of this, or after this little demonstration here. So I'm going to go to Input, Keyboard, Send, Control, Alt, Delete. And I'm going to type in that password that I just created. And I'm logging in. It is taking its good old time. So everyone, real quick, just tell me where you guys are coming from, where you're watching. Like if you're watching from the States, Canada, where are you guys from? I want to know. And also tell me if the weekend is a good time because I'd like to do more of these in the future. Oh, cool. Mexico, Oregon. Nice. Houston, Texas. Yeah, is if the weekend, I think the weekend's better for most people. I sent out a poll earlier in the month or last month, and most people said that the weekend was better. But if you guys think, if the middle of the week is better for you guys, I can do it just after I get off work. Dallas, Texas, Brazil. Oh, cool, Francisco. That's awesome. Pennsylvania. I have a lot of family in Pennsylvania, Jerry. Nigeria. Wow. It's watching from Florida. That's awesome. Florida's awesome. Thailand. That's so cool. Texas, New Jersey. Okay, weekend is great. Austin, Texas. San Diego. Man, I want to go to San Diego. One of these days I'm going to go to San Diego. India. Oh, wow. Sorry, Manny. Man, it's late for you. Sorry about that. Got classes and work during the week. Yeah, that's what I figured. Most people seem to agree that the weekend was better. So, okay, cool. I just wanted to double check. Okay, so right here it says, do you want to allow this to be discoverable? I'm just going to say yes. It's the only computer on the network anyways. All right, now generally what I would do now is I'll go to Devices, and I'll say Insert Guest Edition CD Image, and I'll install that. We're kind of running out of time now, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get to Joshua's question about how to build a domain so that you can start getting these practical experience. Again, this is covered, I think I have a video of this on my YouTube channel, but this is all covered in my course, my Server 2016 course. But I'm going to cover this right now for you guys. So if we go under local server, and first thing you want to do is rename the computer. So we'll click change. I mean, this doesn't matter if you do it. Sorry, we're not going to choose domain. It doesn't matter what order you do it in, but I generally do it in this order. So the computer name, we're going to call this, we'll call it DC01. Generally, I've seen people work off of airport codes that kind of give you an idea, like the closest airport code, you'll type that in so that people will know where the server is located. Like I might do IP for Instructor Paul and then DC. If I wanted to do like US, IP US DC01, I could do that. Or IP, if I was in Florida, IPFL, IPVA for Virginia, IPPA. I'm just going to do IP DC01. IP stands for Instructor Paul since that's my website. So I'm just going to click OK. And it's going to say restart your computer, click close, and I'm going to choose restart later. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down here and I'm just going to see what kind of IP address this thing has pulled, because I can see in the bottom right I have internet connectivity. So I'm going to hit start. I'm sorry, I did that really fast, and I have a terrible habit of doing that. Hit start. I'm going to type in CMD, and that brings up the command prompt. So when you click that, this window will pop open, and we're going to type in ipconfig and just see what it was configured. So right here, I can see the IP version for address is 10.0.2.4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Ethernet here under local server. This is a server manager. And I'm going to assign that as a static IP address. So I'll right click on this Ethernet adapter. Any server that you're setting up, you want it to have a static IP address. So I'm unchecking version 6. I'm selecting version 4, hitting properties. And I'm going to say use the following IP settings. And it's 10.0.2. What was it, 4? Got some memory loss here. 10.0.2.4. Okay, we can see the gateway. All these settings are going to be exactly the same. So the gateway is, that's actually using 255.255.0. Okay. So I'll use 255.255.0, and the default gateway is going to be 0.2.1. Check that. Yep, cool. Okay, so preferred DNS server. If you're building a domain, so fast if you don't know the steps. Yeah, Mr. G, I'm sorry, man. But check, I'm going to give you this course, and this will have section-sized videos, like 3, 4, 5 minutes each, and it's going to walk you through each of these steps at a much slower pace. But I want to answer this question for Joshua since he asked. So my preferred DNS server, that's going to be the IP address of this computer. And that's because we're going to make this a domain controller. Domain controllers have the Active Directory domain services role. It means you have Active Directory, group policy, DNS, things like that. So this will be the preferred DNS server. Don't need to worry about the alternate DNS server. The default gateway is generally the router or the switch that this computer is connected to. Since this is virtual, it's 10.0.2.1. All right, so I'm going to click OK. I got that set up. And now what I'm going to do is just restart the computer. So I'm going to hit Start and Restart. And we'll hit Continue. Okay, so James Bishop is saying, I was trying to decide if it was better to start with a full desktop install of Windows Server 2016, or what about the free Windows Hyper-V Server 2016 that only boots the CLI? You can go either way. I mean, if you want to get a virtualization experience focused around Windows, that's a great way to go. It's probably more efficient, especially for a lab. I would say if you're trying to set up a lab, then I would go with the Hyper-V server. Yeah, that's a great way to go. What I did for my lab is I just installed Windows Server and then I used the Hyper-V role. So it's more efficient to use Hyper-V, but I wanted to use the server for more than just Hyper-V. So okay, so the server has rebooted. I'm going to log in here. So I'm going to get input keyboard, Control Delete, and I'll type in that password that I just created. Okay, so yeah, I understand what you're saying. I understand what your issue is. So if that's the only, you're saying how to connect the CLI to manage the VMs. There are a series of PowerShell commands that you can use to manage Hyper-V VMs. You actually can't really get away with setting up a lab in Hyper-V without using PowerShell. So you can do it with PowerShell, but if that's the only computer that you have, probably not the best way to go about it. If you have another computer, you can install the Hyper-V role and manage them that way also. Okay, so, but that would take a lot of explanation for me to show you how to set all that up, so we'll get into that later. Okay, so you want to build an IT lab. This is for Joshua. What you want to do, once you have your server up on the dashboard, add roles and features. Okay, we're going to go through this. This is just a warning mess or a welcome message. We'll skip through this. We're going to do a role-based or feature-based. I'm not going to explain everything because we're running out of time. I have a lot more in-depth information in my course, in the free course that I'm going to give you. I think I do. I don't know, it might be in the next course. I'm not sure. I can't remember. All right, so if we go to server roles, click next until we get to server roles. To build an IT lab, a real IT lab that emulates the corporate world, you have to install Active Directory domain services. So when you check this checkbox, it's going to ask us to add all these features. Some of the things we're going to see here is the Active Directory Admin Center, PowerShell, things like that. So we'll click Add Features. We'll click Next. Click Next again with all the default settings. Next. And then we'll click Install. So what's going to happen is it's going to go through this installation process. Probably not going to show it all to you guys right now because I'm out of time. But then there'll be a little message that will pop up here at the top. And it'll say post-installation configuration required. We'll click that. And then we'll build our domain and things like that. And then once you have your domain, you'll have Active Directory. You'll have all those important tools that you can learn. Okay, so I have to move on from this now because I'm running out of time here. So let me just go ahead and... All right, let's talk about how, like, once you get this lab set up. So I've showed you how to install Windows Server. We talked about how to, install the Active Directory domain services role. Now, let's talk about how do you take advantage of your IT lab. So the first thing that you have to understand, and I kind of alluded to this earlier when I was talking to, I think it was John, about virtualization experience and how to get a virtualization job, you got to understand that experience is experience. It doesn't matter if you get the experience in your house or if you're on the job or if you're volunteering at the library or someone's office. And I want to tell you a story. Basically, when I started my IT career, I couldn't get, like I explained at the beginning, I couldn't get experience because I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a job because I didn't have experience. So it was like this, it was a catch-22, right? Well, the way that I got experience, there wasn't virtualization as easily accessible as there is now back then. I mean, I'm sure there was options that I could have done, but it wasn't really like it is now. It wasn't as easily accessible. My computer wasn't powerful enough. The software I don't think was just there. So what I did was I went and I volunteered at a church because I went to a church and they wanted to broadcast their services live overseas. So what I did is I brought in an old computer. I installed Windows, I think it was probably like XP on it, or Windows 2000, and I installed a couple different software solutions. I put it in their sound room and I hooked up all their mics and I broadcast their services to across the states and overseas. I also did phone support for it and email support for it. Okay, now this job, I didn't sign a contract. It wasn't official. I wasn't hired by them. I just did it. And then what happened was I was working at McDonald's while I was doing this, right? So like, we're at the bottom of the food chain here, making minimum wage here in the United States. I was just happy to have the job and I could have a car and a phone. But I wanted to get into IT because I knew it paid better and it was just a better work experience and things like that. So I kept applying for jobs for I think like a year or something like that. I finally landed an IT internship that didn't require any IT experience. I still didn't really get the job I wanted, and they were kind of having me just do like spreadsheets, and it wasn't really an IT job. But what happened was I was able to get another job, and it required a bachelor's degree, which I did not have at the time. But since I had been volunteering at that church the whole time I was working at McDonald's at night, I only did it on the weekends, right? So it wasn't, I meant not at night, part-time. So I would work my regular job, and then on Saturdays, Sundays, I'd be over there setting all that stuff up, and I'd run phone support. So I wrote on my resume, volunteer experience, Manassas, Church of God or whatever it was. And I said, I set up this server, I broadcasted things, I supported it over the phones and over email. That was it. And when I went to apply for this full-time job, they said, do you have a degree? This job requires a degree. I said, no, I don't have a college degree. And they said, okay, well, we see you have 4 years of experience doing this server administration for this church. And I explained the situation to them. Yeah, it was just voluntary and things. They didn't care. They swapped out the whole bachelor's degree because I had that experience. So my point, and I didn't even want to put that on my resume, but the manager, the person who was in charge of all the sound, said, he owns an IT company. He said, put that on your resume because experience is experience. So you guys are learning in a lab at home, and you might be tempted, well, I'm not getting paid, I shouldn't write it on my resume. You should write it on your resume because if you understand how to install Windows Server, that's a skill that you have that you can bring to an employer. So don't lie and say, I worked at a office and I installed. No, just say, I have technical experience. This is what I know how to do. I can configure Active Directory, and I can do all those kind of things that, that employers are looking for. So understand that experience is experience. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is look over job descriptions for technology keywords and then learn those key tools. So if you're seeing that there's a lot of jobs that have Active Directory, hint, there are, Active Directory is a big deal, then you should learn how to use Active Directory. Okay, if you see group policy, if you see PowerShell, all those things, you should learn that. And I'm going to cover an example job description here in a second. All right, so here are the most important things that you need to learn. So once you have your lab set up, this is what you need to spend your time playing around with these tools. First, installation, basic configuration, Windows Server. Most of you probably already done that. If not, you're going to do it soon. All right, you're going to learn how to build a Windows domain, which I showed you the first half, but you can I have a video on my YouTube channel that I think shows how to install the Active Directory domain services role completely, so you can watch that if you'd like. Active Directory is like, you cannot survive in the Windows IT world without understanding Active Directory. That is a requirement. And it doesn't take that much to kind of get it down. Group policy, Active Directory and group policy are like the same. They're not the same thing. They're used hand in hand all the time. Okay, so if you learn Active Directory, do yourself a favor and learn group policy. Now, Windows Server Update Services, or WSS, is patching, and it's how you manage patches in your network. This is a big deal because with all the security, the hacking, all the kind of like vulnerabilities and things that are going on in the IT world right now, people are always trying to hack networks, steal secrets, and just cause problems, bring servers down. WSS is a way that you manage or you mitigate that by forcing your domain to install patches. So if I work in a corporate environment and I'm not using any kind of update server, people can install updates whenever they feel like it, right? And that's going to be, they come in, they see they need to install updates, and they're thinking, oh, I got to get something done, so I'm just going to push this off and do it later. When you run a WSUS server, you can force that to install overnight when they're not there, things like that. You can choose which updates you want to install, which ones you don't want to install. So WSUS is a huge thing that you can bring to the table if you're trying to get a promotion at your job, or if you're trying to get a job and you say, hey, look, here's another skill that I have, okay? Scripting, PowerShell. Batch scripting, I don't know if I wrote it in there, I don't think I did, but any kind of automation that you can do, anything that seems to be redundant, figure out how you can write a script so you can click once and repeat that task. Okay, that's a huge advantage. If we can hire someone that will save man hours, I mean, that can save millions and millions of dollars when you really deploy that out in your organization. Okay, so here's an example job. I just found this job yesterday. I was just looking because I wanted to talk about, I know a lot of you guys, we want to get jobs, right? We want to get good paying jobs. So I was thinking I'm going to find a job description. Let me make sure my camera's not correct. Okay, I'm not. So I wanted to find a job description so that you guys can understand, like how you should look through the description and like how you can use job descriptions to learn different technologies. So here, this job, I'm going to bring my pointer over here. This job is paying $68,000 to $126,000 a year. It's in the Washington, D.C. area. People generally there are paid a little bit more than other areas, but this is good money either way. So here's some of the things they're asking for. They're asking for virtualization. That's something you're going to understand from my free course. You have an understanding of virtualization. The more virtualization you can get, the better. We talked about installing E6i. You should play around with as much as you can. Basic network area storage, email systems, that would be like Exchange. Experience with Microsoft System Center, SCCM, for distribution of Windows patches. SCCM, when they say patch with SCCM, they really mean SCCM can manage Windows Server Update Services patches. So WSUS is definitely included in that statement, even though they're not saying that. Experience creating, customizing, deploying packages with SCCM. I have a course on this that covers everything they just listed there, but you can learn this stuff by just going through the documentation. It's frustrating doing it that way, but you guys have access to all the information that you need to do this. And then the rest of this paragraph's like, you can lift 50 pounds, you can pick up a server and put it in a server rack if you need to. And then it's here at the bottom, must be able to attain a top secret level clearance. Like if you guys live in this area, you should like take all my courses and then apply for it because you would be a good candidate. This is basically a top level secret clearance. That means you're a good person. You haven't done anything criminal in the last 8 years. And you have a fairly simple background and you're, usually you don't have to be a U.S. citizen, but I don't think, but it helps if you're a U.S. citizen. Okay, so education. Equivalent professional experience in server administration may be substituted for education requirement, 4-year college degree. That's exactly what happened to me on my first real IT job. I mean, my experience was a joke. And they said, oh, wait, you did that 4 years? I mean, it was like a couple hours on Saturday and Sunday. And they said, okay, we're going to swap out the whole bachelor's degree and just give you the job because we can see you're a self-starter. See, the thing is, when you take online courses, you're joining webinars like what I'm teaching you guys right now. That tells employers a lot about your work ethic. You guys are self-starters. You want to learn. I mean, you're taking time out of your set. You don't understand, like, I wish I could hire you guys because a lot of people, they just don't care. You know what I mean? So it's just the way that it is. So the way that you guys can show that you're taking courses, you're learning, you're educating yourself, that's a big deal, okay? So if you guys are interested, that's basically the meat of this webinar. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and send off your questions. I'm gonna James, before you hop off, let me send out these free gifts really quick. Let me go ahead and do that. Hold on. Okay, so the video course, I'm gonna post it in the chat right now so you guys can enroll in that. This is all gonna be free. So there is the Windows Server course. Here's gonna be the ebook. This is the ebook version of that video course. And the last thing I'm gonna type in the chat is going to be the how to get an IT job. Okay, so if you guys are interested, if you want to learn, like basically everything that was implied in this job description, SCCM, virtualization, they're implying Active Directory, they're implying WSUS, they're implying, group policy, even though they're not saying that in here, all those technologies are required to be able to do any of this that's listed up here. Virtualization, if you guys want to jumpstart your career and you don't want to spend time going through YouTube or just reading articles, you can take my training. I have a Windows Server 2016 course, Active Directory Group Policy. The Server 20, it'd take too long to explain everything that's in this course, but it'll take you from not knowing anything about server to installing it, configuring it, and deploying it out in a production network. Active Directory Group Policy, that is like a 6-hour course that only focuses on those two technologies. It covers automation, how to deploy software with group policy, how to manage your workstation. So if you don't know what group policy is, you can do things like set desktop wallpapers for your environment. You can set logon banners. A lot of security is implemented with group policy. So I cover all that in there. Then Windows Server Update Services, I have that course. That course, covers everything from start to finish. You will be the man. The WSUS is called WSUS, or Windows Server Update Services. You'll be the WSUS man at your work if you go through this course. It covers a lot of troubleshooting. That's probably, even though it's not my longest course, that is probably my best course that I've ever made. Followed closely by SCCM. SCCM, this is a monster of a technology. That was also listed in that job description. But SCCM allows you to manage your domain more than you can do with just Active Directory and group policy. You can deploy images, you can deploy patches. You'll have full control of every computer within your domain. So I have a course on that. It's also very, very frustrating. When I was beginning in my career, I tried to install that following the articles, and a lot of them are outdated because a lot of these TechNet articles, they're not written by necessarily Microsoft people. They're kind of donated. So they don't cover every detail like you would like. And then I taught this course with Instructor Robert, Mastering DNS on Windows Server 2016. I mean, if you want to, DNS is every IT place that you work, when you can't ping something, you can't connect, it's a DNS issue. So that course is extremely thorough on DNS. Then I have the Build Your Own Windows Server IT Lab. We covered that pretty much in this webinar, and I'll also give that one to you guys for free. And I have another, this will be good for Joshua who's wanting to learn more about virtualization. I have a course that focuses on just VirtualBox and server and network virtualization. So all these courses, I mean, you're not going to be able to get all of them, I imagine. I mean, you could if you wanted to. If you bought all those, it would cost, I think, if you buy them all individually, it costs like $1,100. I have a bundle that's $997. But for you guys, since you're on this webinar, if you want, I'm going to give all of those courses to you for $97. That's over 90% off and $900 saved. So if you guys are interested in that, you can go to instructorpaul.com/special. And that offer, I'm going to take that down pretty quick because I can't afford to do that. If I give this offer out to everyone, I'm basically going to go bankrupt and I'm going to have to get a second job. So if we go to instructorpaul.com/special, let's see this page. Yeah. So here's all the courses that you're going to get, everything that I just listed in there. All these courses right here, like if you click on these, so let's go to like SCCM. This is the toughest thing that I teach right here is SCCM. It's a $199 course. Most of these courses are $199, but right now, if you guys want, you can grab any of them, or actually all 7 of them for $97. Yeah, this says it's limited for 56 hours. I'm not leaving it up. I need to change that. That's not going to be up for 56 hours. That's a mistake. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that, go ahead. Take advantage of it. Before I take it down, and then let's see, did everyone get the free stuff? Okay, everyone, yeah, it looks like everyone got the links. Cool. So I think that pretty much wraps up everything. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with me, guys. That was awesome. But if you're interested in the course bundle, go ahead and grab it now. I'll be taking it down probably, I don't know, maybe tonight. If I might have a busy night tonight, so I don't know. I'll probably take it down tonight. I need to update this timer here. Yeah, but if you guys are interested, you can grab all my courses. This is everything I have for $97. I purposely didn't invite a bunch of people. I didn't run ads to this, and I didn't invite I'd rather have more people on the webinar, but I knew I was doing this offer, so I didn't want to. I just can't afford to do it. So it costs me more to host these courses than I get when I sell everything that I have. So. All right, cool, guys. So are there any other questions? I'm basically done. So if you guys just want to hang out, I'm cool with hanging out. I can show you. I don't really have anything to do actually for like the next 15 minutes or so. So if you guys want to ask me some questions, you want me to show you anything, I'm down for whatever. Or if you guys just want to hang out. Okay, so let me see. So Yanis is saying, how about the idea of hiring a 43-year-old PC network engineer with 19 years of experience? P.S. With knowledge and active directory. Hire or not? Yeah, hire. Absolutely hire. You think you're too old at 43? Come on, man. You're young. You're not too old. The best people that I work with are in their 40s. 100%. The best people I work with. I'm young. I'm in my 20s, my late 20s. 100%. I'll hire. Yeah. I mean, if you're 75, I'll interview, I'll evaluate you. You know, is his brain still firing like he used to? Dude, if you're 75 and you can do, I just look at skills, man. I don't care. I don't care about anything. I look at skills. I don't care about what you do in your personal life. I don't care about where you're from. If you know how to do work, dude, I'm hiring you. Like, I don't care. And I think most people are that way. I mean, granted, I'm wrong, but if you have skills and 19 years of experience is nothing, like no one's just gonna be like, oh, he's, that's a good thing. So yeah, you're not too old, man. Not too old. 46, 38, 49. Man, you guys, you're not too old. Not too. Actually, my dad was the one who got me into IT. Well, my dad was in IT. My brother got into IT when I was like 15, 14, 15. So I kind of figured, I want to do the same thing. My dad made the career switch from a plumber to IT and I think around 45. So he had no experience at all. And he went to a trade school because back then you couldn't just take online course. You couldn't get a 7-course bundle like what I'm offering right now. So he had to go to a trade school and he learned. I asked him about it because I have this thing about college. I didn't learn one. This is sad to say. I have a degree in information technology, and I don't want to be insulting if anyone else has gotten a degree and they liked it, but for me, the classes that I went to, I didn't learn. I'm serious. Maybe one class was beneficial. Besides, I'm up for. I'm not saying college is a bad thing. The English was awesome. The writing, the math. I needed help in math, but the math that I went through, going through all the way up to calculus, that was a big deal. That helped me a lot. Just in my personal, you want to be educated, so that's a good thing. But as far as like technical skills, like I never installed Windows Server at college. I never configured a domain controller, and those are the things that I'm doing every day on my job. So, I've asked my dad the same thing. He went to a trade school and he really didn't learn that much either. So that's why when I create training, I focus. I don't have you guys memorize questions and answers for a certification because I've done certifications. I understand that you get things like pass for sure, study exams, and you just memorize a bunch of questions and answers, and you haven't been on the keyboard typing in commands. You haven't been clicking around the GUI. It's not the same. So when I create training, I focus everything on how can I make it as practical as possible for you guys. So Yanis is saying in Greece, dude, I think people want someone who knows what they're doing. If you know what you're doing, you get IT experience, you got to invest. If you feel like you don't have skills, then take some of my courses and get some skills. You know what I mean? You can skill up. My courses don't waste your time. They don't fluff your time. They focus on giving you specific skills. But if you're a skilled professional, who doesn't want someone who's skilled? That's why there's so many people. I can't speak to other countries, but in the United States, we have a problem with people graduating college with no experience and unable to get a job. And now they have tons of college debt, and it's really sad. In my personal opinion, you do not need college to work an IT job. I actually don't care if we're interviewing and someone comes to my place of work and they don't have a college degree, I could care less. I don't care at all. I don't care if you have a college degree. Now, I'm not in the norm on that. I'm not. There's a lot of people that do care if you have a college degree, but what they're going to find, and I think this is going to change over the next 10, 15, 20 years, people who just have degrees, they're not as technically savvy. And that's not the right way to say that. A degree does not mean you're technically savvy. A college degree means you went to school and you went to class and you studied and you took exams and you probably got good grades. That's a good thing. That can give me an indicator that you're a self-starter, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to install Windows Server, configure, or build a domain controller, or troubleshoot some DNS issues, or deploy some SCCM packages. College, that's not what college does, right? So college is great, but to me, like college degrees, when we're going to hire people, the last thing I care about is whether or not they have a college degree, because I understand that skills are skills, and if they have skills, if I can ask them, so how do you install domain controller? And they can say, well, you install the Active Directory domain services role, or how do you create a user account in Active Directory? If they can tell me each step, that's good enough for me. I don't need a college degree, you know what I mean? But for a lot of employers, I'm not saying don't go to college, because for a lot of employers, it's a check in the box, and they want to check that box so they can charge a higher rate. or they can like if it's government, they like to charge a higher rate to the government, and they can do that if you have a college degree. So I'm not saying don't get a college degree, but I'm just saying that for me, when I'm looking to hire somebody, I don't care if they have a college degree or not. Okay, so Jason McBride said he's 26 and worked in the retail security environment all of his career. Still working on my degree with no IT experience. Okay, hold on a second. So this last hour has really okay, awesome. I'm glad that I helped you. Oh, okay. So he's saying retail security. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, then this is perfect for you, man. You get your lab set up. Start working with those technologies that I showed you. If you want to take the courses, definitely take the courses because any entry you're going to be so overkill for any entry level position you won't last there very long. And what I mean by that is they're going to hire you thinking you're self-motivated, you're a good worker, obviously, because you have certifications. Because when you take one of my courses, you get a certificate of completion. You're going to be able to show that to them. They're so okay, it's a self-motivated person, he's somewhat skilled, but you're going to be like at a level above, like very quickly you're going to be at a level above all the other system administrators just because of the depth of knowledge. You'll be able to refer back to my courses. My courses are lifetime access, so you're going to be able to come back at any time and say, I'm kind of forgetting a little bit about DNS. Go back to the course, watch whatever you need to refresh on, and you're just going to be way above most sysadmins because a lot of the guys, they're not doing this kind of stuff like what you guys are doing. That's one thing I want you guys to understand is have confidence because you guys are doing good. By even just by showing up to the webinar, that tells me a lot. Like I wish I could run webinars in my local area and find people with the right set of experience. I work in a really niche field. You have to have I have to be careful what I say because I do government support. So it's really hard for me to hire people. But at my last job, man, if I could have ran webinars and found people in my local area, that would have been awesome. I would love to hire people like that. Eventually, one thing I want to do is I want to set up a shop where I just run, and I want it to be cheap. I want to make it as cheap as I can, like $100 if I can afford to. But I want to set up a shop where I bring in people from the local area and I show them how to rack a server, how to install Windows Server. And we run like a 2-week camp and I just show them everything about Windows Server. I think that would be so awesome and make it affordable because so many people are getting in debt in college and they're not learning the skills that they need. So that's one of my future goals. I'm going to do that. Look for Instructor Paul in your area in like 50 years. Okay, Dexby, I'm not sure what you mean by MSP versus internal IT. I have about 10 months experience as an MSP. So there's so many acronyms, it can mean so many different things. So just tell me what you mean by MSP. Yeah, hardware and network cable tech. Little help desk, and I feel like I've learned. Oh, wow. Well, that's really nice, Dexby. He says, I feel like I've learned a lot more than if I started. Yeah, you understand it, network infrastructure. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Network infrastructure is like most sysadmins don't understand networking infrastructure. I worked 2 years as a network administrator, and it was really eye-opening for me because I had worked in IT for like 4 or 5 years, and I thought I understood things pretty good. But then when I got to the back end, we were routing through the building, we're configuring switches and working with multiple subnets and VLANs. It was kind of like I was kind of doing the head scratcher, like I haven't done, and this is kind of confusing. So if you have network infrastructure, that's a great skill to have. That's a great skill to have. Yeah, so instructorpaul.com/special, that is the link. I'll post that again. Thank you, Kevin, for posting that. Actually, I guess I'll leave that up on the webinar so you guys can see that. There we go. Go down at the end here. All right, do you have videos on Windows computer patching? And yes, Manny, that is included in this course right here. Can you see my mouse cursor? I think Windows Server Update Services. That course focuses completely on Windows patching. So I can actually pull up, let me see here. Let me open Internet Explorer really quick, and I will show you the course right here. It's included in the bundle for $97. If you want to buy it just individually, it's $199. That doesn't even make sense. You wouldn't want to do that. But if we go down to the curriculum, so let's see here. So we have yeah, I think this is setting up a basic lab. Oh, no, wait, I clicked on the wrong course. I was a little bit confused by that. So if we go down here, let me keep going down. There we go, Windows Server Update. So $199 course. If I scroll down, here's the curriculum. So it covers adding the role, how to install it, how to configure it, synchronizations, troubleshooting, advanced administration, all kinds of stuff like that. It actually goes really, it covers just about everything you need to know for WSUS. So that WSUS is Windows patching, okay? And for those of you who haven't seen like my Server 2016 course, see, let me go down to the curriculum just show you guys what it covers. Yeah, I have some videos in here how like trying to help you guys get an IT job because I know that's what you guys are trying to do. You're trying to get a promotion. I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, by the way. Oh yeah. So any, I'll get to that in a second. Francisco asked a question about 2003, 2016. One second. One second. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted there. Okay. So this course, yeah, it goes really in depth on. You even go to Windows 10, joining a workstation. When you're building your lab, I didn't say this. Oh my goodness, I should have said this. When you're setting up your lab, install Windows 10 VM and join it to your domain. Okay, just remember that. Write that down. That's covered in this course. But if you don't enroll in any of the courses and you want to do it on your own, that's fine. Just install Windows 10 on another virtual machine. Where's VirtualBox? Let me show you this. All right, create a new VM. Make it Windows 10. Where is it? Okay, download the Windows 10 ISO and then put it on the same network as this Server 2016 and join it to the domain. That, and then manage it. Okay, that's covered in this course. But yeah, I also covered DHCP really lightly and DNS really lightly. But I have full courses on those also. Same thing for Active Directory Group Policy, PowerShell. I cover WSUS real basic. This course kind of covers a lot of things at a real, light. It gives you basically what you need to know if you need to use it in your job field. Then I have specialized courses that are included in the bundle. We have Server Core, things like that. So let me see. Let's get back to some more questions. Do you have any courses on Exchange? I'm building one right now. So yeah, it's about like I have it. So I'm up to the point where I've recorded all the lectures. We're building the lab. We set up the lab. We're installing Exchange. We have Exchange configured. We can send email, and that's where I am on the course. So there's a lot more for me to cover. But I am working on Exchange. Oh, managed service provider is like an IT company that provides. Oh, yeah. So when IT companies outsource, no, that's great, man. That's great. So you said, so your question up above. Oh no, dude. MSP. Okay, yeah. So that's a great because you get exposure to so many different environments. You understand? Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome because you get exposure to a lot of different environments. You get to see how they're running things. You can learn. So whenever you're doing that, whenever you're going onto another site, I don't know if you work remotely, if you actually drive to the site and look at it. Always try to be learning because one day the goal that you should have is that you're the guy in charge of everything. You're maybe not everything. It depends on the company. If you're in a small company, you may be the guy who's in charge of the networking, the routing of all the wires, the data center, the cooling in the data center. So just look at all that and try to absorb it and remember it. Like look at how, if you find any trends, what works good, what doesn't work good. That's a great opportunity that you have. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. And the cool thing is, I don't know how it sounds like it gets crazy. So you're pretty busy. Those are the kinds of companies that take job like if you work on it. What I'm trying to say is it's a safe job to have. I feel like because if you're working on site, there's nothing worse than finding out. Like if you work for a company and they say, "Oh, we're outsourcing our IT department," and you're like, "Oh, well, I guess I'm leaving." You know what I mean? So you have a safe job and you're getting exposure to a lot of different environments. I think it's great, man. I think it's awesome. And I don't, man, woman, ma'am, I don't know. Whatever. Sir, ma'am, person. Can you help me learning IT ticketing software? Okay, that is a really, really good point. I'll record a video. I'll try to do it next week because that's a huge thing. Ticketing is like one of the biggest deals in help desk, and they're going to ask you if you have experience with ticketing systems. That is a very good call out. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try and record a video on that this week for you. And that's for Frank. Yeah, ticketing. For those who don't know, basically someone will submit a ticket. When someone's having an issue, my mouse isn't working. They'll have a ticket submitted, and it'll come into a ticketing system, and you'll have a queue of like 10 things, and you'll go in order. So you'll see, okay, this guy's mouse isn't working. I'm going to go help them. Once you fix the issue, you come back to the system and you say, I resolved that issue. You close the ticket. Pretty much every help desk does that. It's a way of them tracking what's going, like what kind of work is being done, things like that. Does anyone still use Remedy? Yes. Yes. People still use Remedy. Remedy is still a big tool. If you have experience with Remedy, that's like one of the top, like one of the most used. I don't want to say most used because I don't know statistics. That's a very popular tool. Remedy is still a very popular tool. At my work, we use Jira. It's part of the Atlassian tool suite, and it's kind of a software development tool. But you can also use it for tickets also. So you can create an issue and say, you know, this server needs a patch installed and the patch keeps failing. We'll create the issue, and then some admin will come in, take the issue, assign it to himself. They'll go fix the issue, then they'll come back to the ticketing system and mark it as resolved. Yeah, IBM, AT&T. I mean, those are huge companies. Oh man, Ballcat Paul. Where are you from? And tell me your IT experience because I might be able to get you a job. If anyone's worked with Jira, talk to me, okay? Just talk to me. We finding Windows system administrators, people who have Windows experience or even Linux who've worked with Jira is like the hardest thing in the world. If you're an American or a US citizen, come talk to me, okay? He lives in Phoenix. Okay, we have people that work in Phoenix. Shoot me an email, paul@instructorpaul.com, okay? How cool would that be if I could get one of you guys a job? I think I spelled that right. That would be so awesome. Yeah, yeah, definitely email me. Like, email me your resume, all that. I would love to get you a job, man. I'd love helping people, and that would be so cool. That would be so cool. Oh, cool. Yeah, so Dex is saying his company has its own IT ticketing system, which is really cool. I guess did they do that to save money? Is that why they did that? Because I'm surprised, or was it like it needs to have special functionality they couldn't find somewhere else? Yeah, man, send me an email. Seriously, do it right now. Email me right now, and I will get in contact with you, and I'll see if I can set you up with something. Because Jira experience is a big deal. I can't promise anything, but because I'm not ultimately the one who will hire you, but we are looking for sysadmins with Jira experience. Cool, awesome, ball cap, Paul. Hey, my name's Paul too. That's cool. We just hired another Paul on my job, so his last name is like Tyranny, so they call him Mr. T. So we'll have to call you ball cap or BC or something like that. Yeah. So any other questions you guys got? I mean, we're basically done. It's cool, man. We hung out for 30 minutes longer than I expected. That's awesome. I'm having fun. You guys, I don't know. Hopefully you guys are having fun. By the way, how's the video and the sound? This is my first ever webinar. Yes. Yes, I don't have what kind of NAS technology, James Bishop, what kind of NAS technology are you wanting to use? Um, because I can definitely include that. And that's something that I will do. Like if you want something added to the course, you just email me and I'll add it for you. So we have, yeah, everything for setting up the two physical servers. You're going to understand how to configure the servers, set them up. I don't have anything on a NAS. If you're talking about like setting up Windows Server as a file sharing service, yes, that is covered in the course. Awesome, Dave. Don't forget to check out, if you check out the site, there's links. And oh man, you know what? I need to send out those free links again. I don't know if any guys joined after I sent that, but here are the links for the free stuff that I promised you guys. I'm gonna send this out a couple times probably because I don't want any of you guys to miss out. Um, that one. Yeah, so download all that stuff because that's a free video course, a free $99 course, a free, like, I think it's a $50 ebook and a free $29 ebook. So make sure you guys download that. Um, oh, awesome, Francisco. That's so cool. It was hard for me to get this set up. I was stressing out, but I'm glad it came across pretty good. I know I ramble a lot, so hopefully the presentation was okay. But yeah, this was fun, man. I had a lot of fun. I'm gonna have to do this is my first one, but I have to do it some more. Okay, so he has an 8 terabyte RAID 5, 32 gigabytes per server, Dell R210s. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Did you say this is for a home lab, James, or is this for production, like out in the real world? I shouldn't say real world because home lab is the real world. You know what I mean? Like I said, it goes back to experience is experience. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I couldn't afford to do that until like I started teaching and I could do it as a tax write-off. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, definitely do that. Definitely set that up. That's awesome. I actually run a gaming server out of my Hyper-V network. It's pretty cool. It has like I don't know how many gigs. I think give it 24 gigs of RAM. It's on a solid state. It's funny. Oh, nice, James. CCNA is a huge certification, and that's a hard certification to get. That is a hard certification to get. So congratulations on that. That's awesome. That is really good. And those networks, CCNA, CCNP, CCNEs, those guys are paid very well, very well. So that's a great decision or a great choice. CCNA is a big deal. That's a big deal. I believe it, man. And did it take you more than one try on the test? He said it took 2 years to get the CCNA. Did it take you more than one try at the test? Because those tests are hard. Oh, okay, so there's microtick MTCNA. That's cool. Just as powerful against Cisco. That's awesome, James, man. When you come from the networking side, you have such an advantage because eventually you guys are going to be managers and you're going to be responsible for the networking. I mean, you might not be, but generally, if you work in a small company, dude, you're responsible for everything. So you're going to have to understand how to, do routing and switching. So having those skills is huge. Oh, Francisco's also a CCNA. That's great, man. That's awesome. Yeah, two fails on the test, James. I don't, man. That's good. You got it done in three tries. That's good, man. You did good. CCNP. Nice, Francisco. That's awesome. Yeah, MySQL's a big one. You guys should learn about databases. I don't have any database courses, but I definitely plan on including them in the future because it's a huge. Actually, I'm building a PowerShell course right now, and I'm going to show how to integrate a MySQL database with LDAP so that your applications that use MySQL can be Active Directory integrated. So I will be showing some exposure to MySQL and things like that. But I don't have like a dedicated database course, but that would be really good for me to add because that's a huge thing. I mean, one thing you guys gotta like, just one thing you'll know about me is like I work full time. So when I come home, like today, I'm home, so I'm working. But like when I go to a regular day job. Sometimes I work overtime, and I come home at night, hang out with my kid. I got a little 2-year-old and my wife, and then I come down here and I work. So, like if I could do this full time, that'd be awesome. I'd build out course content like crazy, but it slows me down a little bit. Dial up DBA. Oh man. I used to try and play we used to play games all the time and I would play what was it? Delta Force. Remember that? Delta Force Lane War. I don't know if you guys are into gaming, but yeah, we used dial up. And like someone would call your home while you're on like you're playing the game. You're like, no, you're like about to win the game and you get a phone call. Oh, the good old days, man. Dial up. That's great. Oh, okay. So you were in your 20s, you were a DBA, and then you left. Oh, okay. What'd you do? What'd you switch over to do? Just change your career? And then what was your motivation for doing that? I'm curious about that. I mean, you say you like kind of regret it, but um, kids today will never know. Yeah, man, it's crazy. I mean, it's 2018. You got kids who are 16, 17 years old. They don't even remember 9/11. You know what I mean? They weren't old enough. So dial up, they're just like, what? They don't even know. They don't remember times before this. And I'm not that old, but I remember not having cell phones. You know what I mean? Before Facebook, before Google. But that's okay, because when they're our age, they'll look back and they'll be like, "Kids never know I used to have this Galaxy Note 8 and it don't work. It's so much slower than what they use." Half life years, yeah. Oh, you took a job. Oh, that's awesome. You took a job as a chef. How cool is that? So you can cook, man. That's cool. That's really cool. At least you weren't wasting your time. You know what I mean? You can cook up some good meals. Duke Nukem, yeah, man. I used to play Duke Nukem. I was really young then. I watched my dad. I mean, I couldn't play that game. Um, Plus, my mom got really mad at me because it was really for that day. It was like super violent. So, my mom, I would sneak down and watch my dad play Duke Nukem. Yeah, I remember that. This is cool. Oh, okay. So you did the move just to have a job. Wow. Well, good on you, man. Sounds like you did what you had to do, and now you're doing what you have to do to better your career and better your life, better your family. You know what I mean? That's awesome. That's what it's all about. And I respect what you're doing because I mean you're on this. Like I said, I'm not trying to like just beat a dead horse, but you guys are on this webinar. That speaks a lot to the type of person that you are. Like it really does. So I wish I could give a certification for you attended this webinar. You know what I mean? Because it really is very telling that you guys are motivated. That's awesome. Okay, ball cap Paul. That's kind of a tongue twister. Awesome. Thanks for the email. I'll get back with you. James Bishop. Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool, man. I'm gonna do some more of these. Maybe I'll pick like another topic. Maybe I'll send out an email with like a survey with a couple different things that I can do a webinar on. I think it's a cool idea. I'm not gonna do the 7-course bundle though. Like I can't do that anymore. This is probably the only time I'm ever gonna do that. So if I do that, it'll probably just be like I'll offer one course. But I will. It's so cool hanging out with you guys and teaching you guys stuff. You guys get to learn, and then it's cool for me because I get to understand. Like when you guys have questions, it helps me understand from a creator or an instructor standpoint. You know, okay, a lot of people are asking questions on this. I need to make sure I address that better in the videos in the course. So that's cool. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's so cool. You guys are still hanging out with me. I can't believe that. But I think I gotta wrap it up. So. Let's see, yeah, so if you guys want this is probably going to be the last time I'm going to offer this. Instructor Paul /special. You can get all 7 of my video courses just for $97. It's over $900. It's actually, it's not, if you buy it $997, those 7 courses, you're already getting $300 off, which is less than the course of like a cheap community college. So a cheap community college like course. So that's discounted down to $900. Then I'm taking off, or that's $997. I'm taking off another $900, 90% in total discounts. So you get everything for $97. And yeah, I probably, like I said, I mean, I want to do cheap training as cheap as I can do it. But if I do this too much, I'm gonna run my online business into the ground because like it costs me a lot of money to host the courses, to have the website, and then when I do marketing and I try to get people to come, it's so expensive. So I try to do everything as cheaply as possible because I understand not everyone has like a ton of money to spend. So this is my first one. I figure I'll give the best offer I can give on my first. So, but anyways, it's pretty cool. Oh, Ballcat Paul date night, cool man. I wish you good luck. That's so funny. Cool. Anybody got some more questions for me? I'm gonna hop off here in about 3 or 4 minutes and do anything else. Thanks, James. That was so cool. This is so cool hanging out with you guys. I've been instructing online since 2015. Not a long time, 3 years. But I've never done a live broadcast because I was kind of too afraid. But man, it's so cool. All right, see you, James. Thanks for watching, man. All right, guys. If you want this offer, go ahead and take it now. I'm gonna probably take it down pretty soon. Includes all these courses. Oh yeah, I didn't really talk about the instructor Q&A, but you can ask questions on the courses directly on the lecture, and I come back and I answer them directly. Usually within the same day, a couple hours. And I also hired somebody to answer questions to try and make that a little bit faster. You get a certificate of completion. You can show that to your, your hiring managers. If you're trying to get a job, you can say, look, I've taken this course on Windows Server or Active Directory or WSUS or SCCM. 7 courses in there, so you'll have a lot. And it's easier. You'll have more skills than you would. I don't want to talk it up too much. You'll have very good IT skills for each of these courses that you take. All right. Thanks, Salvatore. Awesome. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with me. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Ballcat Paul. That's awesome. It helped me a lot to have my dad and my brother starting in the IT field. That was a huge – I'm so fortunate to be able to have someone like that motivate me, to get into the field. Because if I was only child, I don't know what and if my dad didn't do it, I don't know what I would have done. You know what I mean? I guess I'd probably work at Walmart or something like that, like most of the other guys my age are doing. Which there's nothing wrong with working at Walmart, but that's just, I enjoy IT. I love IT. I'd do IT for Walmart. That'd be cool. You're an IT/marketing beast. I'm not an IT marketing beast. Oh, I'll be an IT marketing beast. Yes. Hopefully that is the goal. Hopefully we'll keep your fingers crossed. I don't know. I have so much to learn. Like with running the online business, I'm so new to it that I have a lot to learn. But yeah, it's definitely fun, and I get to help people. Like you don't know how many messages I've got from people. I wish I need to save them. From now on, I'm going to save them. But I get messages every once in a while, not every day. But people say, "Look, man, I got a job because I took one of your courses," and that like I literally got the opportunity to change someone's life, and that means a lot to me. It's kind of like what my dad and my brother did for me. They influenced me into IT. My dad sat down with me when I was like 15 and showed me Active Directory, which is like what I do in my course with you guys. So I'm just trying to pass it on, you know? And it's really beneficial to everyone. So it's really cool. Thanks, Ballcat Paul. It's cool. All right, more live vids soon. Yeah, definitely, Kevin. All right, guys, I think I'm going to hop off. So thanks for hanging out with me. We went 40 minutes longer than I thought it would. I can't believe so many of you guys are still hanging out with me. That's so cool. But thanks a lot, guys, for coming out and watching everything. If you want the special, I'm going to leave it up for a little bit, instructorpaul.com/special. I'll be taking it down. I don't think I'm going to offer this again, but if you guys want it, go ahead and take it. And thanks a lot for hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you guys inside those courses and in the next live webinar. All right, bye, guys.